Hi, I'm DIY Jeff, and today I'm going to show you how you can easily rebuild a starter using this step-by-step tutorial.
DIY Jeff, your go-to YouTube channel for helpful how-tos and honest reviews.
I'll be using a starter from a 2002 Dodge Ram for demonstration purposes. However, most starters are similar in composition with only slight variations. This step-by-step tutorial will give you the basic fundamentals needed to rebuild most starters. If you're looking for a video on how to remove a starter, I have two step-by-step tutorials that I'll link down in the description. So enough talking about it, let's get started.
This starter is OEM from a 2002 Dodge Ram. It's 20 years old and has well survived its expected use and is due for a rebuild. You don't have to do this next step, but I like cleaning up the exterior using a brass brush. There's 20 years of dirt and oxidation that's not too hard to remove. Since a starter is comprised of electrical components, I suggest using electronic cleaner to wipe it down. If you're interested in where to purchase it, I'll have a link down in the description. The cleaner evaporates quickly, so you'll have to be quick when wiping it down. It's certainly far from looking new, but it does look better. The first step is to pull back the dust cap and remove the nut from the motor side terminal using a 12mm socket or wrench. The terminal on the other side of the starter that the wire coming from the battery is located is referred to as the battery side. Next, you'll remove the starter motor from the housing by removing these two 8mm bolts. One of them you can get a wrench on, but the other may require a socket. With the two bolts removed, wiggle the motor to release it from the housing. Once out, it's a good opportunity to inspect the splines on the gearing to make sure they're not worn down. Next, pull the armature out to inspect the coils and make sure that the bearings rotate freely. If the armature looks burnt or worn, parts stores do sell replacements. In my case, it still looked good and the bearings rotated freely. On the inside of the housing are 4 graphite bushings that suppress to hold the armature in place. Press them in by hand to make sure that they release and don't stick. Also visually inspect them to make sure they are not worn down or unevenly worn. When taking things apart, it's easier to lay things out in order, making reassembly later much easier. As you disassemble each piece, make sure to use electrical cleaner to thoroughly clean it. Using a 7mm socket, remove the 3 bolts holding the solenoid plate cover to the solenoid. Remove the plate and inspect the paper gasket and replace it if necessary. With the plate removed, take the plunger and the spring out. Visually inspect for being burnt and replace if necessary. You can clean it up again using the electrical cleaner. Also check that the spring has good resistance and bounces back when released. If you'll be reusing it, it's a good idea to clean the copper edging with a brass brush or Scotch-Brite pad. Cleaning this area will increase the functionality of the contact point. The copper you just cleaned makes contact with the copper I'm pointing to here. No need to clean these, as we'll be replacing them as part of the rebuild kit. It's hard to see in the video, but down in the bottom of the center hole, there is a small bearing that the plunger spring rests against. On some starters, the bearing will just fall out, so be careful when tipping the solenoid over. On this starter, the bearing is held in by a lip and won't come out until we further take the solenoid apart. On the back of the solenoid housing are 2 Phillips screws. These screws are difficult to get off, and I'd suggest spraying some penetrating lubricant on them and let them sit for a couple minutes. Make sure you use the right size Phillips head screwdriver or you'll strip the head for sure. I'm using a number 2. Even using the right size head, I could feel the screwdriver starting to strip the head, so I immediately stopped. If this happens to you, you can try a couple of different approaches. The first, and preferred, is to use an impact driver. It's designed just for this type of application. It took the screws out easily. If you don't have an impact driver, then try using channel lock pliers. Even if the edges of the screws get messed up, they'll still go back in easy with a screwdriver. The solenoid cap can get stuck, but you can pry it loose with a flathead screwdriver. Wiggle the cap loose and clean out the inside graphite shavings. With everything apart, now is a good time to inspect the brushes. The last part of the disassembly is to remove these two screws to separate the housing. Using a number 3 screwdriver, press down hard and turn. If you can't get them out, you could use an impact driver. Now, separate the housing to get to the internal gearing in order to clean it and re-grease it. Gently bang each side on the edge of a hard surface like I'm doing here in the video to separate the two halves. Then carefully pry them apart. Take the small gear out first. It's held in place by a center piece of plastic that holds 5 metal pins. These pins are what allow the gear to spin easily and freely. Wipe down each pin completely, removing all of the old grease, and then do the same for the plastic pin holder. Clean off the gear, making sure to remove the old grease between the teeth and the cogs. If you're not replacing the armature, clean it off with electrical cleaner, being sure to remove the old grease from the gear. The copper should be cleaned where the brushes come in contact with it, and you can see the copper's original color on the shiny section to the left. It's best to use a Scotch-Brite pad if you have one, but I didn't, so I used some coarse steel wool. Only use it in a circular motion and not up and down, since that's the direction the armature spins when it comes in contact with the brushes. It doesn't have to be perfect, just get most of the oxidation and graphite dust off, and then spray it down with some electrical cleaner. If your armature has grooves dug in it like you can see here, it may need to be replaced if they are deep. In my case, they are shallow, and there are only a few, so I'm going to reuse it. Clean off the inside of all the housings, caps, and gears, paying close attention to the old grease on the gears. That way, when you apply new grease to the gears, it won't be contaminated with the old grease. With everything cleaned, we can now start replacing the contact points. On most starters, this is the number 1 wear item. You'll need a 14mm socket, and because the nut is recessed, it's hard to get a good grip on it, so lay the housing on a flat surface as shown here, and you should be able to get it off. Remove the plastic housing and washer, and then push the pin through the hole, taking a mental note of the order in which all the pieces came out. On this side of the housing, there is a paper shim between the housing and the terminal attached with a wire, and then the contact point. Removing the nut on the other side is just as difficult, so be careful not to strip it. I found success using a deep impact socket, but you may find success using a different method. Because the pin may not be fully seated once you loosen the nut, put your finger on the head and push up to finish removal of the nut. Like the other side, remove each piece and push the pin through. Remove the plastic isolator and clean out the housing. Put the isolator back in, and now you can finally start reassembly. I purchased a universal Dorman rebuild kit, and I'll link it down in the description if you're interested. Since this is a universal kit, not all the parts may work for your starter, so be sure to carefully match up the parts before installing them and only use the parts that are exactly the same. I'm pointing out here how my old contact had worn down. This is the number 1 most common reason why a starter fails. We'll start on the side that has the plug wire that connects to the vehicle. Each side is a little different, so it has to go together the same way it came off. This side is pin, then terminal, then plastic, then paper. On the thread side, put on the O-ring and then the outside isolator that can go on only one way. Next, the washer and then the nut. Hand tighten and snug with a socket or wrench, but don't over tighten it. On the other side, fit the rectangular plastic isolator on the inside of the housing, followed by the contact point, and then the wire terminal, then the pin. I forgot to put the O-ring on the thread side and had to take it apart off camera and put it on. Then next, put on the circular isolator and the washer. Then hand tighten the nut and don't over snug it with the socket. As you can see, my terminals are different sizes. Not all starters are the same. Some use 2 larger terminals and some 2 smaller, or in this case, one of each. It's time to re-grease the cogs and splines as you put each piece in. When working with moving parts like this, you have to use a motor-specific grease. I'm using a brand called Lubriplate 105, which is made specifically for motor assembly. I'll put a link down in the description if you're interested. Squeeze the tube a few times as the grease will have slightly separated. Start by packing the bearing first, pushing the grease down into it, filling all the cracks completely. Then grease the cog, and don't make a mess of it, but be generous with it. To reassemble, put the cog in first, followed by the plastic pin holder, then the pins. The last couple of pins may be tight, so use a screwdriver to slightly pry it up and hold it while inserting them. Then, test to make sure it spins freely. Next, insert the ball bearing in the hole, and don't miss this crucial step or you'll be taking it all back apart to redo it. Line up the housings, and they'll snap together. Turn the housing over and insert and tighten the 2 Phillips screws. Install the spring and plunger and make sure that when you press it, the gearing extends on the other side. Place the plate over the plunger and tighten the 3 screws by hand. Then snug them up with a socket. If the 4 contact points I'm pointing at look dirty, use a Scotch-Brite pad or a brass brush on them. These create a ground to the cap placed over them. Using dielectric grease on them will help keep the contacts from wearing down from friction over time. Link in the description where you can find some. This next step is by far the hardest of the entire rebuild process. Insert the armature with the copper contact and bearing first. The part that is difficult is getting all 4 graphite shafts to depress at the same time so that they seat against the copper. If you have an extra set of hands, this step could be fairly easy by having someone depress 2 of the bushings with flathead screwdrivers while you depress the other 2. Then it should slip right onto the armature like this. I ended up doing it off camera because of how difficult the process was. Grease up the gear and insert it into the housing. Once seated, it should look like this, and the wire should reach the stud. Set the cap in place, lining up the screw holes. Insert and tighten the 2 small Phillips screws. You should have the holes lined up for the 2 long bolts that hold the motor to the housing. Insert the bolts and tighten them. Place the motor wire connector over the terminal, tighten the nut by hand, and then snug it with a socket. And place the rubber cap over it. And you're done! You rebuilt a starter and can feel proud of your accomplishment. Very few people in this world can say that they rebuilt a starter.
I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Also, click the bell icon next to the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time I upload a new video.
DIY Jeff, your go-to YouTube channel for helpful how-tos and honest reviews.